Welcome to South-South News. I'm Bill Miller. One of the main goals of South-South News is to focus attention on unique economic, social, and developmental activities that are taking place, especially in economically developing countries. Today we're going to get an update from one such country, and that's Equatorial Guinea. And my guest today is someone who's very knowledgeable of that. He is Excellency Anatolio Ndong Mba, is the permanent representative of Equatorial Guinea to the United Nations. He has a varied background, especially in forestry, agriculture, and animal husbandry. He has been the permanent representative from Equatorial Guinea to the United Nations for a year and a half. And I want to welcome His Excellency Anatolio Ndong Mba to South-South News.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bill. Thank you.
I appreciate you being with me today. Before we get into the issues, let's talk about Equatorial Guinea. A lot of people, I'm sure, know right where it is. Many have been there, perhaps, but some maybe have not. Yeah. Give us a little overview of how large it is, land-wise, the population, where it's located, just a few of the basics like that.
Now, but first of all, allow me to express deep appreciation and thanks to South-South News for inviting me today for this brief conversation. Yes, you are right. Sometimes people write about Equatorial Guinea, although they don't know really nothing about it. Equatorial Guinea is the only sub-Saharan Africa colonized by Spain. You know, it got its independence on the 12th of October 1968. And is located in the Central Africa. Is in the sub-region of Central Africa, and as neighbors, it has in the south, it has Gabon, and then in the east it has Cameroon, and Cameroon also in the north, and then it has the Atlantic in the west. You know, Equatorial Guinea is composed by islands and the mainland. So you have the capital is the island of Bioko, and the mainland capital is Bata. The mainland is 26 square kilometers, and the island is 2,000 square kilometers. Has also small island. You have the province of Annobon, you have Corisco Elobeyes and adjacent islands. As you can see, the marine surface is more bigger than the land surface in Equatorial Guinea, have a lot of water. Population is nearing to 1 million now. And economy basically, as you can see, is the Equatorial Guinea is the third oil producer after Angola and Nigeria and the Sub-Sahara Africa, but also agriculture and forestry and fisheries and tourism, also activities that give some revenues to the country.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned tourism. Most countries around the world, developed and developing countries, tourism is a major industry. Is that one of your largest industries in Equatorial Guinea?
Actually, not one of the largest, but is a sector which the government really is planning to develop and to become a top priority in the industry activity of the country.
Mm-hmm. Well, you and I, before the program, we were talking about the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, and this might be a good way to launch right into some of the major activities that you have underway. And of course, we remember 2000, the countries, the majority of the countries at the UN came together and developed the UN Millennium Development Goals. Right. And they are 8 practical, logical, well, they're quantifiable goals, such as reducing abject poverty by 50% by 2015, to provide universal primary school education, to do a variety of other things. And you are, as with all the countries of the world, you're involved in that in Equatorial Guinea. What are some of the major Millennium Development Goals that you're working on now? And I know you've done this Horizon 2020 report, and maybe we could tie those into the Horizon 2020 report.
Yes. As you know, the Millennium Development Goals Summits held here in New York in the year 2000 took place. Although not all the country has the same level of development, but all the government engaged firmly to attain the objective of this summit. It was to Horizon 10-15. So the government of Equatorial Guinea is fully engaged and is working in that sense. But you know, before the discovery of oil in Equatorial Guinea, our country was one of the poorest countries in Africa, because before His Excellency Ndong Mba got to power, the country had lived the previous 10 years with a lot of problems. So from 79, that the President Ndong Mba became into power, we have worked very, very hard in rehabilitating the country, in the reconstruction of the country, mostly with foreign assistance, and also in introducing some apprenticeship in the practice, in the democracy practice. So in 2000, when Millennium Development Goals Summit took place, the oil have just been discovered, and that means that we were still fighting to emerge from the previous 10 years of 79 situation, mostly undeveloped. Now, currently, before that, before 2000, the government of Equatorial Guinea has already organized a first economic conference. That was in 1997. Was an economic conference where the government, with the participation of all the actors, political actors, economic actors, social, the civil society, NGOs, took place in this conference in order to examine how to utilize the revenues from oil. And that was established some horizon at that time from 1997 to 2001. Then 10 years after, another conference was held. That was in 2007, in order to try to enhance and accelerate again the activity deployed by the government. And that's where Horizon 2020 was adopted. Horizon 2020 for the government of Equatorial Guinea means to bring the country as an emerging country, to bring the country to develop a sustainable, to establish sustainable development for Equatorial Guinea by year 2020. That means potable water for all the population, education for all the population, health, food, attain food security, communication, infrastructure, developed tourism, as I said before, as a top priority in this strategy Horizon 2020, and also preserving the environment, But the government is working in all those aspects, as you have asked, in the primary education, even in the higher education. Equatorial Guinea is today one of the highest alphabetical level countries in Africa, you see. And then they has working a lot on the HIV with a lot of advocacy in order to try to eradicate it, try to diminish totally the infection level. It's working very hard on that. Working very hard in partnership with some oil companies like mobile in eradicating malaria in Equatorial Guinea and other pandemics. And also regarding the Millennium Development Goals, as you know, Equatorial Guinea is not a food deficit country. It's not, because food deficit country means country that not produce enough food or does not have enough financial means to acquire the difference of food to
So you're a food importer. You bring you're importing food.
We are importing food.
Do not produce enough.
We don't produce enough. We import, but we are working. The Ministry of Food and Agriculture and a lot of private actors are working toward achieving that goal. That's mean food sufficiency.
This is a very important issue. Food sufficiency is extremely important. And are you working now to upgrade the production level of the farmers in your country? Are you providing technical assistance to help them increase or to encourage more people to move to the land? I think your country is about the size of the state of Maryland, yes, something like that, with 1 million people. But what are some of the unique things you're doing to help farmers to? And I know this is an area that's near and dear to your heart. You've been very involved in it.
That's right. No, the government is working very hard on establishing cooperatives so that the farmers can develop the agriculture with the technical assistance of the government through partnership with other countries in the sub-region, in the region, and from other countries. You know, we have a lot of South-South cooperation that was established also with FAO, as in the FAO program, and a lot of training, sending students abroad to study in the field of agriculture, so that then they can serve as extensionists to help the farmers. We think that in the framework of the Horizon 2020, the situation of food production will attain limits very acceptable.
Yes, that's very important. And you mentioned the Food and Agriculture Organization, which is a major UN agency. That's one of the key ones, is providing technical assistance.
That's right. That's right. We have a representation established there, and as other countries in the region, Equatorial Guinea is benefiting from technical assistance from FAO. Part of the fact that the government itself is investing a lot in agriculture, investing with unilateral trust funds in the agricultural programs.
Right. And one of the most important Millennium Development Goals, and what we're talking about ties right into this, is the goal number 7, dealing with sustainable development. And of course, part of that is climate change. And we've seen just about every area of the world has had their climate change in some way, shape, or form. Have you found that to be the case in Equatorial Guinea, that there are some climate changes taking place, perhaps desertification taking place, or more rains during the monsoon, or some changes that were not there maybe 20, 30, 50 years ago?
Yes, you know, Mr. Bill, climate change is not a restricted problem of certain countries. It's a global.
That's right.
It's a global problem. In that case, effectively, we do realize that some patterns of rains, you know, Equatorial Guinea, we have 2 seasons, the rainy season and the dry season. Sometimes now, you can't really program this before. You have it very clear limit where the dry season and the rainy season. So you find some changes that the farmer don't know where to plant, how to plant, to show their seeds and harvest. So that creates problem. In fact, as in the rest of the world, we are noting sometimes the temperature of the weather is very hot more than it used to be before.
Oh, sure. Now, you're participating in the United Nations conferences, I'm sure. You've been involved in those, and of course, you're probably liaison. Are you working with the UN Environment Program or with some other, the World Meteorological Organization or other UN agencies to provide assistance, or with other folks outside, other agencies outside of the country, as well as people in the country?
Yeah, the government has been, Equatorial Guinea has been participating actively since the Rio Conference.
The Rio Conference in 1992.
It took place there, and Equatorial Guinea participated in all the events regarding environment and climatic changes. So we are very actively involved in this, and we are collaborating with a lot of international NGOs and NGOs from particular countries in preserving some endangered species, like the turtles, like the monkeys, and also in creating protected areas in our forestry, because you know Equatorial Guinea is a country of dense forest. So we have protected zone where you cannot cut trees, so they are protected. And we have a regional project with other Central African countries called ECOFAC, and we are active member in this project. So you have the wildlife organization which is has been collaborating with us. FA also is working a lot in environment. So has helped Equatorial Guinea some years ago in formulating, assisting in preparation of the law, or again for hunting and protected areas and all these aspects.
And it's very important to do that because it's easy to deplete your natural resources, not just yours, but all around the world. And that certainly can happen if we're not vigilant and making sure that we do preserve them for future generations and that there is sustainable development. You mentioned the Rio Conference, Rio de Janeiro in 1992, the UN Conference on Environment and Development. And of course we see that the UN now is having another one, the Rio Plus 20, it'll be in early June of 2012.
That's right.
It's a UN Conference on Sustainable Development, which will include economic development, I'm sure, but it's interesting to see how the shift is taking place. Well, it sounds like you're doing some interesting things in Equatorial Guinea. Before we run out of time, I do want to just run over a couple of items that I know are of interest to you. The transportation system, obviously, in the country is very important. Do you find that there's been a transportation boom in that area, or there's emphasis on highways or bridges or developing physical infrastructure?
The current development program in Equatorial Guinea is global. It's a multi-sectorial, and it's covering the whole country. From north to south, from east to west. As we said before about education, about hospitals, this time I can tell you about all type of infrastructure, bridges, roads, and communication and transport. You have connection with Equatorial Guinea, one of the best connected countries today. Iberia, you have 7 flights per day. Air France, you have 7 flights per week as Iberia. KLM, Air Morocco, Ethiopian Airlines. So many companies are going there. And internally, you have a national airline called Ceiba. It's because, as I told you before, the capital in the island, and we have the mainland. But this Ceiba is connecting also not only between the island and the mainland, but also in the sub-region. It's going to Cote d'Ivoire, to Ghana, to Togo, to Benin, to Chad, to Central Africa, to Congo Brazzaville, to Cameroon, to Gabon, to Sao Tome and Principe, and on. So we are really very well connected.
You're expanding quite nicely.
Yes, and then a lot of work going on water abduction and electrification. We think that with water abduction, potable water and electrification, and the good infrastructures in road, that by itself will bring about a lot of development, will allow people to easily transport their food production, will create better health condition, having potable water, and with electricity, the living condition will necessarily improve. So with all that, we hope in the next few years will be established, all will bring about a big improvement, also improve a lot in sport. Football, as you know, in next year, Equatorial Guinea, jointly with Gabon, they are hosting the CAN, which is the Cup of the African Nation.
Oh,
Cup
in soccer, in football, soccer,
football,
yes.
Soccer, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, and this year Equatorial Guinea is hosting the Africa Summit, the African Union Summit. You see, so that by itself that means that there have been a lot of development in infrastructure to invite 57 head of state in a country. I mean, there have been a lot. That way I'm astonished when you see certain news in certain media. And then they bring you some pictures in marginalized areas. There is no country in the world without suburbs. Anywhere you go, you will find suburbs. But when they go to Equatorial Guinea, they are not objectives. They just take some picture from the suburbs, and what the government is developing, they just ignore that. And painting very negative pictures. But what we say in Equatorial Guinea is that, yes, we still have a lot to do. Those who bring negative pictures, let us come and advise us so that we can correct and improve what we are doing.
Right. There was an argument years ago, and it's still current, I think. A lot of the countries, developing countries in particular, were very concerned about the way the media covered the issues in the country. And so often they called them parachutist journalists, parachute journalists. They would come, drop in, stay for 2 or 3 days, as you mentioned, take some pictures, leave, and then write articles. And usually they're very negative articles about the country. And so, I mean, of course, no country is perfect. We all know that. Everybody has challenges, be it the United States, Canada, Equatorial Guinea, Uruguay, wherever it might be. Every country does. But there are always positive things that are taking place. What do you see as some of the major challenges? We've talked about them now, I know, with your infrastructure development, but as you look over Horizon 2020, what do you see as some of the major challenges to Equatorial Guinea that maybe we haven't talked about up to this point?
Yeah, it's one of the main challenges developing the human capital, the human resource. You know,
the human resources.
Yeah,
and
the government want to invest in its population with better education, with better health, with better nutrition. You know, I think that you can face all the challenges and preserving the environment in order to attain sustainable development, because the main challenge of Equatorial Guinea is from 2020 attain the sustainable development. In that sense, he has created a social development funds. This social development fund is in charge of funding all these social projects going around in the country. For education, for health, and you have higher education now. It has been a lot of tremendous improvement in higher education in Equatorial Guinea. So this is one of our bet, because all what the government is doing now must be sustainable. In order to be sustained, you must have trained people. And then also the other aspect is to secure the employment for youth and for the population in order to improve condition of living and the fight against poverty.
And you've hit it on the head, really. We come right down to it. The key core issue is to have qualified, capable, well-trained people. The human resources are absolutely critical because they're the ones who create the physical infrastructure. They're the ones that put together the campaigns to promote internal development, financial investment. They're the ones who make the country successful. And no country can be successful if people are not well-trained and literate, but it's extremely, extremely important to do that, yes.
No, the government, what I can tell you, at the highest level, political level in Equatorial Guinea, in the person of His Excellency Ndong Mba, is fully committed, working very hard in achieving this objective for the country and for its population.
Well, Your Excellency, Ambassador Anatolio Ndong Mba, Permanent Representative of Equatorial Guinea to the United Nations, I want to thank you so very much for an interesting program.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us on today's South-South News.